Greetings, I am Tom Merle. On this week's episode, we talk Mindset Matters with LaShana, Ms.West, creative coach, and Charlese, girl at the yellow desk. Check it out. Woo! Greetings, I am Tom Earl, and this is my year of depth. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy, means the world to me. I hope you know that in this moment, you are valued, you are loved, and you are appreciated just as you are. As you can see, I am not alone. I have two brilliant, creative, entrepreneurial, and amazing guests. Our first guest goes by the name of LaShana, also known as Ms.West, creative coach. And we also have Charlese, girl at the yellow desk, in the house. What's going on, LaShana and Charlese? How y'all doing?
Oh, doing great.
Awesome, Tom Earl. Thanks.
I'm so glad y'all are here. This is going to be just in the little intro. When we were just hanging out before we hit record, I could already tell the energy, the connection. This is going to be awesome. So y'all get ready for this. So why don't we start? If y'all want to share in whatever way you want, fun way, you can read your bio word for word, whatever you want. How would you describe yourself? What's the intro? You take the stage, someone yells in the audience, "Hi, who are you?" How would you answer that question? And whoever would like to go first, feel free to jump in on it.
Sure, I'll jump in. So my name is LaShana, and I'm a mindset and clarity strategist, and I help entrepreneurs get out of their own way by getting clarity on where they want to be in life, building confidence, and that is what's going to help them get to the cash.
Yes.
I love that.
LaShana, I'm done speaking.
I love that. I'm Charlese, and my energy is wanting to be like LaShana's, but I'm a copywriter and launch specialist. So I help people sell through their words. I help them put their story in front of people so that it can sell more when they launch their amazing courses and their amazing projects. And then I actually can manage the entire project as well. So kind of like that secret, you think you're hiring someone to help you with the words, but really you're getting like your business best friend to come and just like partner it and punch it out, get it done. So you can also make the cash.
Came for the word, stayed for the ability for you to punch it out. So when y'all were growing up, did you think, you know what, when I am older, I want to be an entrepreneur, and specifically, I want to do the thing that y'all just said? Was that it?
Definitely not for me. I'm actually a therapist by trade. Been a therapist for 20 years, and I didn't know I was going to end up transitioning from therapy to being a coach. But if you think about it, it's kind of the same thing. A therapist helps you change your mindset. They help you see the glass half full. They help you come up with strategies. And that's what a coach does. So growing up, I thought I was going to be a baby Beyonce, right? And not quite there, but I can help her get her mind right. So I'm close.
So, just to clarify on that. So when you say a baby Beyonce, did you want to be a singer, a performer?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the show, you guys will see I'm a little animated, and it's not on purpose. It's just natural, you know?
So when, and Charlese, don't worry, you're going to get these follow-ups too. When did you decide, okay, I'm not saying I'm not going to be, a pop star. That's still going to happen. But in the meantime, I now have this calling to do therapy.
Yeah. So great question.
Oh my God, it's raining here. I'm so sorry. This is just newsworthy. Raining in LA.
Where's the rain? I see palm trees.
That's true. Green screen. I apologize. Very unprofessional of me. How did you know you're going to be a therapist?
You're totally fine. So basically, growing up in a chaotic household, a lot of trauma, a lot of drama. I said, I definitely don't want to repeat this. So when I got to high school and got to college and found out therapy, what they do, that connected the dots. And that was definitely where I wanted to be, and just stayed in that realm until now. Now I'm serving entrepreneurs on a coaching platform.
Okay. You keep going over the juicy stuff a little too quick for us. Okay, so you went through like got your MSW, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, LPC.
Dang, that's a
Yeah.
lot. Just break down for folks just for a second, because a lot of folks out here, and I'm not saying you can't, but they're like, I'm going to be a life coach. I'm going to be a mindset coach. They maybe read like 2 books and then they're in. I mean, you have to have hours of supervised, like delivery and therapy, and break it down for a little bit for us, kind of what into shaping you as a therapist. And then, okay, let's do that. Then my follow-up question.
Sure. So, bachelor's in human service, social service administration, master's in clinical counseling. You have to do lots of hours of not only observing the therapy being done, but also being supervised by a supervisor. So I've done everything from mental health counseling to intensive in-home crisis. That's where people are saying they want to kill themselves, helping them on that journey. And I think, a lot of people, they get these certificates to be a life coach, but when you dig deep, that's the therapy. So a life coach can kind of help you learn the coping skills. But when you're digging into trauma, and when you're digging into diagnosis, things of that nature, that's when you have to go to school. And that's why it's very important for life coaches to have clear boundaries, because there's a slippery slope where you can get into quote unquote therapy land when you're not qualified and you don't have the skill set. And then that can put both parties in jeopardy. So I have my master's in counseling, and now I do life coaching and business coaching. So the therapy lens just gives me a solid foundation of, hey, there's some trauma there. There's some unresolved trauma, and you should go see a therapist. So I'm not practicing therapy, but I have the skill set to be able to refer you to a therapist instead of kind of brushing it under the table like, oh, you'll be fine. Go drink some milk. You know what I mean?
Such a great distinction. I love how you put that the life coach can give you the coping skills to then hopefully work with a therapist to go deep through a process, the trained process. Okay, last question. Then Charlese, this is giving you a little foreshadowing of what you're going to go through here in a sec. You put all this energy, all this time, investment, school, supervision, you're now doing therapy. I mean, for a lot of folks, it might just be, I put this work in, even if I'm unhappy, I'm going to keep doing it. What for you created this spark, this courage, this journey to say, no, I want to do this more through an entrepreneurial lens and in the specific way you're doing it?
Yeah, great question. So honestly, I didn't even know about the entrepreneurial thing until I moved to Atlanta. I got to Atlanta and I seen this entrepreneurial community, people moving and shaking, doing what they love, having fun, dressing how they want, wearing their hair like they want, cussing if they wanted to, naming their own prices, providing value. And I immediately went and got my LLC and started coaching, right? And what I love about it is you can be compensated from your creativity and your intellect, and you get to name your price. A lot of us are underpaid. If you think about it, a therapist, teachers, everybody in the helping field, they get around 30, 40 a year. As an entrepreneur, you can make that in a day if you want. You can make it in a week if you want. You can make it in a month if you want. Of course, you got to have some training and skill set, but I just feel like there's no ceiling to what you can make and the impact that you can make because you're running your own show.
I love that. Awesome. Okay. That is great. You set the stage for some awesome convos. Charlese, let's get you now in the hot seat. What about for you? Did you know you were going to be the girl at the yellow desk when you were coming up?
Most definitely not. In fact, looking back, I was always destined to do what I did do for 22 years, which was hair. I cut every Barbie doll. I tried to cut my friend's hair. I colored anything I could. I braided anything I could. I was destined to do hair. And so my final straw with that was I was 17. I had just cut another haircut on myself, recolored my own hair. I figured it out, pulled the old highlights out, done my own thing, came downstairs, and my grandma rolled her eyes. She was coming over to visit. And she's like, all you ever do is change your hair. You need to become a hairdresser. And it was like this. Because for me, I love to learn, but I hate being in a classroom, being told what to do and having all of the, just the drama around school. So I did go to college for a bit. I studied business. But I was like, I cannot wait till I just start working. So I immediately shot out of the gate. I graduated high school early, went to college a little early, and then got into the best hair school in Los Angeles. And was like, that's it. This is my life. And second I got out, was running my own ticket. I mean, was doing everything my way. So over those 22 years, I moved a couple of times, which means you start a new business. So I learned how to start businesses, market myself. I learned how to network with people. I also love to do a million side things, because once you start entrepreneurship, you kind of can't help yourself. I think there's so many things you can do, and you see these opportunities to use your skills. So it got to the point where I had been doing this. I had a salon for about 7 years. So here I am with my salon at 7 years. I'm now only doing hair a couple days a week. I love what I'm doing. I'm traveling. I'm having so much fun. And friends of mine are calling me and saying, oh, you're so talented with so many things. Can you just help me over here really quickly? And they would hire me to do little projects. Like I had a friend who's I still have her, but she's a global party planner, event planner for this major tech company I won't name, that's over here in the area that I live. And we traveled to France, we traveled to Portugal, we did these major events, Vegas. And she just would call me and be like, can I give you like this boatload of cash? And then you just throw the Star Wars party for us for 300 40-year-old men in the tech industry. And I had to figure out a lot of stuff, but it was really creative and fun. So when I had my back had been going, getting in trouble, my back wasn't feeling well from not only the years of doing hair, but before that, I was kind of a wild child. Besides, like, riding every roller coaster in town, dirt bikes, snowboarding, all the extreme sport stuff. So really used my body. So by the time I did hit that age, where it usually happens, mid-30s, my back went out and I had to have an emergency surgery that I was not expecting. So at that point I thought, now how am I going to pay my bills? And reached deep into some of those skills that my friends had taught me, from helping virtually, where I could work literally from bed while I was recovering, and decided to start another company. Just instead of laying around crying, I said, well, what? Let's start a company. And that's what I did.
How though did you arrive on, copywriting, the project management side? How did you arrive on that?
So I didn't know what to sell. I mean, who does? When you first sometimes come up with this business idea, you think there's so many things I do. Like, how do I narrow it down? And you have one group of people, business coaches, telling you, niche down, pick some one thing, which is correct. And then you have the side of me that's never just sat down and picked one thing, going, no, but I can do it all. And so I wrestled with it for a while, but I will say that I've always dreamed of being a writer. So the two things I wanted to do as a kid was do hair and write books. In fact, I have a couple of books in me, one of them about the juicy details of some of the crazy things that happen behind the chair. So we're going to definitely I'm going to have to sit down and pound that out soon and just get it done. It's so funny. But that being said, it was natural. My writing and storytelling, when you stand behind the chair and talk with people to keep them just the conversation flowing, you find yourself telling stories. You find yourself also doing therapy. So, managing some of their lives actually became second nature. They would come in every 3 to 4 weeks and say, okay, I talked to my daughter the way you suggested. It worked really well. Now we're going to go on this vacation. How do you think I should, and I would just naturally give my advice. So I just was an educator. I just was a leader. I just was someone that people looked to for kind of some management in general. So I was already running a salon. I was educating around the United States. Kind of just fell into place. People said, hey, I'm doing a launch. Do you know how to do this? I said, no, but I'll learn. And next thing you know, my skills just showed themselves.
I love that. One thing that y'all both highlighted is something that I'm always trying to come across to people, is that marketing is really just learning how to build relationships. And so to build relationships, you have to connect with people emotionally. And I'm kind of hearing a theme. You're a therapist. You were talking to people and moving them while you were cutting their hair. I'm curious how, what y'all think on kind of what I'm sharing, and how you find that having that background of being able to connect with people on an emotional level has kind of infused your entrepreneurship.
I will say to that question, I would teach. I actually developed my own course on like growing your business as a hairstylist, and offered this course for free to local salons. And so I taught that around. And one of the statistics that I had learned was, especially in hairdressing, but in anything, it's 80%. Client retention is 80% of liking the person. So you can actually do a crooked haircut over and over and over again. And the person will know it, like, oh, it's crooked. Every time she does my hair, it's crooked, but I love her. That is the key to client retention. So getting to know them, learning their stories and telling them stories, but genuinely caring about what happens when they leave with that crooked haircut, which I didn't cut, by the way. I cut good haircuts, but you could do a mess up. You could have that wiggle room, and that person was more willing to work with you as a friend. You would keep them longer. I still have clients today checking in on me to see how I'm doing because of our 3 years later, our solidified relationship that we had for 20 years. They would come and sit in the chair and say, remember when you were just 20 years old and you first cut my hair? And I had been with them for 10, 15, 20 years. Those relationships are important to people.
I appreciate that.
Nice. When I think about that question, I think about emotional intelligence, because you can be the smartest cookie in the bunch. I'm talking about PhD, Harvard, fill in the blank, right? But if you cannot connect, and if you're not intuitive enough to have the conversation and pick up on what the person's not saying and the subtle things and pull on their heartstrings, they'll go with the person who doesn't have a high school diploma, but they're a storyteller and they're authentic and they're transparent, and they may even share some past trauma. And that's what made me want to connect with that person. So I think in entrepreneurship and just in life, we have to be brave enough to just relax and talk to the person, not talk at them, but talk to them so we can really understand what the true need is and how we can truly help.
And what would you say is the distinction between talking at and talking with or to someone?
Yeah, I think the biggest distinction and skill set that I teach is active listening. And it's pretty challenging for some of us, because right now we're probably thinking about, okay, what do I got to do after this? I got to pick up the kids. I got groceries. My next session's at this time. I wish they'll hurry up. And so while we're having all these thoughts, we're not fully present. And so we may miss some things because we're not actively listening. It's not that we don't care, but like specifically, I'm sure we turned our cell phones off. We turned off the notifications because everything around us can be distracting. So being fully present to really hear and not hear to respond is how you're able to talk to and not just talk at.
I love that. Really hearing and not just hearing to respond. That's great. What about for you, Charlese? Because your stuff is writing, right? And so it's not necessarily like a conversation where I can say something, you say something back. So how do we do that through writing where the reader feels like they are being heard, even though they're being spoken to?
That's a great question. And there's a couple different sides to that. But, you know, the thing that I told you I hated, the school part, I love learning, but the schooling part I hate. That's actually what it requires. So that's kind of the big cosmic joke here. Research. So you do need to get into the mind of the market that you're going to be writing to. You do need to know, and you also need to get into the mind of the client. So a lot of clients I have come to me with an idea and they're like, oh, could you just write all this stuff and help me sell it? But the answer is actually no. I need to know what you're thinking. I need to know specifically what you're offering to sell. Like, what are you actually offering people? And if they don't have clarity around that, there's nothing to write. I could just write a bunch of mumbo jumbo that everyone else is writing, and no one was going to buy it because it's getting lost in a sea of noise. So we need to do the research to find out what someone really wants. And so, for example, if I was going to try to sell something for LaShana's clients, I would ask her, okay, if we want to write up a really beautiful sales page or some emails that reach the heart, I would have a series of questions I ask you, right, LaShana? And I would say, so what do people really want in the end? What are they really here for? What is their end goal? And then what are their top 3 struggles of getting there? And then what do they often say to you? And we can even pull, you're not doing the licensed therapy stuff, so it's not like the HIPAA or any of those regulations, but just things that you've seen in text messages or phone calls repeated over and over. And you could actually, cut and send those to me. And what I would do is start out my messaging using their exact words, showing what they're struggling with, identifying with it, and then saying, but I got you. This person has got you. We've got you because we do this. And do that 3-part step of, I see you. Let's connect. I know this is what you're dealing with, and this is how I can help you fix it. It's getting inside of their mind, and you cannot do that without that research. Sometimes it takes days, weeks, months of research, unfortunately, but the more you're selling like the same product, the cool part is you're always gathering more and more research, and your words actually end up getting stronger for the program or the project that you're trying to get out into the world.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you get to refine your messaging. And my big thing is try, test, and tweak. Like literally, entrepreneurship is a big hypothesis. We throw it out there, see what's going on, assess it, do the market research, and redo it over and over again. I think people give up a little bit too soon. It could be a brilliant idea. And if you just shift one thing, whether it's your target market, your messaging, your value, etc., and do it again and try it, the perseverance will help you to push through. And so I'm really big on the triple T: try, test, and tweak.
Amazing. And it's true. I mean, people always ask, how do you stay in business for a long time? How do you do these things? And I mean, I didn't just go out and cut someone's hair and they sent me 10 million clients and I was suddenly like the most popular hairdresser on the block. Right. There were times where people left. There were times when people didn't like something that happened, or it was a lot of times it's what's happening in their own life. It's nothing you even did. And you can't control that. So you get clients, you lose clients, you get different clients, you may take on a crazy client. I mean, sorry for all the crazy clients out there, but it's true. And then you take that person and it ruins like your mood, your day, your week. You've got to regroup again. So it's that resilience. It's that knowing that that's going to happen, but also having those skills again, like you said, you have like that 3-step process. You have to have your process. So you can always return to it and say, okay, this is like ground zero. We're going to start one more time, 1, 2, 3. And every time you can kind of keep going to those same process, that makes you more and more resilient and keeps you going. Something really cool that I'm working with like a food nutrition therapist for myself this month, amazing woman. And she said to me the same thing I've heard a million times, but when she said it this time, I really heard it. I was like, I'm just not motivated. I'm just like waiting for that motivation to like, get up and work out more. I'm just waiting for that motivation. And she said, motivation doesn't come. Motivation follows movement. So sorry, but you actually just need to go. You just need to get up and you need to do it. Now, I have been told this by licensed therapists, by life coaches, by friends. I have been told this a million times, but when she said it, I was like, it all goes back to Nike. Just do it. Like, just do it.
I always say that. Nike, just do it.
So it always goes back to that. So anyway, circling back with, how we reach that message, how we reach people is doing all the work. Just do it. Just ask, find out. And there's another word that goes around a lot right now. People are saying like, it's okay to fail. And I kind of don't like that F word because it's not failing if you're not failing. Like you can fall down. You can quote unquote fail by looking at the numbers didn't get where you wanted to on your last launch. You don't have the amount of clients that you thought you would. You can, whatever that, fail is for you, but is it really failure if you pick yourself back up and you keep going and you do it again? You didn't really fail at anything. You just learned and you just did it again. And so I really love, LaShana, what you said about people give up fast. I can't tell you how many of my clients, one launch does not do the way that they expected. And they're like, that's it. This whole business is trash. We failed, and they're out of here. And I'm like, it's not failure. It's not at all. It's just step one of like a million. But like, by a million, you're fine, So anyway.
Oh, I love that. And I just want to pull out, so just a couple learning things that y'all have shared. One, I'm hearing that the listening is in the research. So it might seem like the final product is here, let me say something to you. But by researching, you're doing all of this active listening. And then it's basically just mirroring back to people what they've already said. So I thought that was a really nice aha. And the second thing that I really liked that LaShana said was that it's a hypothesis. And I love that word, that you're testing a theory. Now, the question I have that you all started to kind of illustrate or shine on, Charlese, you were especially bringing it up there at the end, was the feelings that come up when your hypothesis comes back as not right. So I think this is what I need to launch, or this is what I need. And you get the wah, 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 like this didn't work. What can we do, or what is the mindset, or what is required, or what can you embrace to think instead like, I am a failure, right? So kind of internalize it as shame to more like, okay, this isn't about me. This is just data. Let me keep going. How do we get to that point as creatives, as entrepreneurs, as activists, where we can cultivate that kind of a mindset and outlook?
It's not a one and done thing. I think that no matter how long you've been doing anything, when you have something that didn't go the way that you expected or planned for, you're going to have feelings around that. You're going to have an emotional response to that. You can, over time, learn that the emotional response doesn't have to be as painful, as deep, or as traumatic, and maybe turn it around a little faster. But you're always going to feel that way. It's just the nature of the game. So the fastest way out of that I found, again, is inertia. So what maybe ahead of time, plan for it. Say, okay, and if we don't reach our numbers, what's our second plan B, plan C? Be prepared for the fact that things may not go the way that you planned, and they're not always your fault. And I think that's the most important statement that we need to hold with that. It's not always your fault. There's a lot of launches right now that clients just went through over the last 3 months that aren't going as well as all had predicted. And that's as a whole large group, because the world is still changing outside. People are like, forget online coaching. I want to go out and play. And then never mind, I still need to go back in and be online. And there's a lot of flux. There's a lot of change. Nobody knows what's going on out there. We no longer have that captive audience where everyone was home for a year and they had to be home. So it's not always inside factors, and we cannot always predict. So what do? You stop and you say, just like LaShana brought out the 3 things that she said that you could do. You write down the facts. You look at a way to improve it, and then you tweak it. You do it again until that one works. And I have talked with some pretty high-end people. I've worked with some multi-million-dollar coaches in my journey, and they all have what they call, quote unquote, a failed launch. They all have it. And it doesn't mean that everything's over. It means let's change that. Let's use the data to change it. So, but you brought up the right word. It's mindset. So what's really funny is nobody realized that, and we used to call it therapy when I was doing hair therapy. Clients would literally say like, wow, I came here for a haircut, but I came out with like therapy. You should get paid more. And to your point earlier, LaShana, yeah, I should get paid a lot more for this haircut. That was a lot of my energy helping you around your personal situation. But what's funny is a client hires me for copywriting and or a launch that they're doing, but we spend a lot of our time on Zoom getting around that mindset. Like, I'm like, okay, we're doing the research. This is what we're doing, but keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. It's a lot of mindset.
Yeah, I would add that also it's comparison syndrome is the reason why we look at it as failure. Well, like, what are we basing that off of? Because I reframe it as learning opportunity. Mm-hmm. But if I'm looking at Keisha and Keisha had a launch and she made quote unquote 10 million or whatever, really what they're telling you, but we don't really know the facts, then of course I failed. But if I'm looking at my journey as my journey and not everyone else's, it's a learning opportunity. I started, I implemented, I put it out there, I did the process. That is a win. Whether one person bought or 100 people bought or 0, it's still a win because you did it and now you're not starting from scratch. You actually have a foundation to kind of level up from, level back from. So mindset is something, I'm a mindset and clarity strategist. And the biggest thing about mindset is that we have to tweak our mindset after every level and every launch, because it goes from being scared to do it to reframing your mindset to not trying to do something else because you've seen someone else do it. So as long as you're up for the challenge in regards to growing, you're going to kill the game no matter what. But if you don't have a growth mindset and you are still struggling with limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome, that's when it's going to be a slower and you're going to struggle more.
LaShana, in your experience, do you feel like basically everyone has some form of that? Because that's what I feel. I feel like I even have that. I'm super confident about my abilities and my skills. And then sometimes out of nowhere, it's like, maybe I'm not good enough for that. Or like you said, comparison, someone will come to me and show me something. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Maybe I'm not good enough at what I do. So do you find that everyone has that, or what do you think?
I think all of us, including myself, have struggled with it or is struggling with it. I mean, you got the Michelle Obama, Serena Williams, Beyonce, the late Maya Angelou, Drake, of course. And I think that creatives and entrepreneurs are more vulnerable because we're always trying something new. It's not like we're the seasoned vet, because tomorrow I may opt into something different. I'm a newbie to that now. Even though I have a quote unquote master's and I've been in the game for 20 years as a therapist or whatever, if I go into the world of ads, I'm now going to be struggling with imposter syndrome and comparison syndrome. And I don't know if I want to do this if the things are not clicking like they're supposed to click. So we have to expect the trial and error, and then we'll be more apt to be open to it as a learning opportunity instead of a struggle.
I could listen to you talk all day.
Thank you.
So I wanted to touch on one thing that you brought up, LaShana, which was growth mindset. So what's the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset?
Yeah, so I'll start with growth. Growth mindset is being open to whatever the case may be. So I'm open to learning. I'm open if this doesn't work. I'm open to change. I'm open to feedback. Feedback is your friend. So if you have a growth mindset, no matter what, it is a win. For example, when we get off of this, off the podcast, you're like, LaShana, you did great. You might want to work on this. I could either say, you know what, thanks. I didn't look at it that way because perception is reality. Or I could say, oh my God, no, he did not try to give me no feedback. And then I'm not growing. If I have a fixed mindset, then I am fixed in this circle. This circle cannot grow. I can't expand because I have a really small way of looking at things and a small way of doing things. So really, and I know I'm talking fast. That's kind of what I do. But fixed compared to growth is if you're open to open up the circle so you can add more tools to your toolbox.
That's amazing. I find that one of the things that happens as well for me is we all say we want feedback, negative or positive, and it's fine. It's fine. But sometimes you still get that like negative feedback. And you, for a minute, I find myself still going back into like my old thought process, like, oh, I'm horrible. And it's like, no, this person was awesome enough to tell me, even if some of the things, once you research it, and let's be honest, sometimes you research it, you go, okay, what did I do that made them say this? How can I fix this for the future or for them or whatever? Mm-hmm. And sometimes I have found, and I don't want to sound like not humble here, but they are actually wrong. It was a perception on their end, something that they expected differently and didn't realize. But even then, I think the practice of trying to find that out and then trying to bridge that gap for yourself and for them is a huge part of growth mindset, because we could automatically, like you said, shut down any idea would be wrong if it's not your idea. But that's not how we get to that next. I would not be a copywriter launch specialist if I didn't have people say, oh my gosh, but you were so good at the launch. Stop trying to do this over here. You're better at this. If I wouldn't have listened to that, if I would have said, yeah, but I still want to stay over here and do this thing, I wouldn't be finding myself the way that I am now. And so people do have valid things to say, and we have to be open to hear what they're saying for us.
Yeah. I'll also add, though, perception is reality. So if that was their perception, even though it wasn't true, as the receiver, I need to think about how to potentially do things differently. Not saying you have to, but I think even if what they're saying is not true, it's still their perception. So some may say, oh my gosh, she's so conceited, she's so arrogant. Even though I'm not, I'm humble, I'm doing things the best that I can. It's something that they're seeing that I'm blind to, which is your blind spot that they're seeing. And so I think that self-reflection for us to really step outside of ourselves and be open, even if it hurts, is where the real growth happens.
That's also amazing. I was thinking of this in terms of when I was doing hair. We had this every single day behind the chair. I would come in and someone would say, you know, I had one client, she would always say she really wanted warm caramel highlights, but actually she wanted like white blonde ones. For some reason in her mind, she would say this word. So if I went up to her and said, well, you're wrong, you're colorblind, you're stupid, that's not caramel, I could show you a million caramel pictures, what's wrong with you? How would that person feel? That would be a terrible hairdresser. That would be mean. To keep the client, I would say, oh, okay, show me a picture of what, caramel is to you, and let's get it there. Let's just call it caramel. It's not caramel. It's fine. And, it was a matter of, like I said before, bridging that gap of what they really meant with what is really happening. And can we bring those together somehow to be a better person? So what I learned from that was to have just, I had my iPad there with photos, and I wouldn't even name them. I wouldn't call the color a name because people get caught up on names. I would say, do you want Jennifer Aniston's highlights? Do you want, so-and-so's highlights? And they would go, oh yeah, I want those. And I didn't care if they called it red, blue, purple, pink. It didn't matter what they called it. If we both see the same color, then that's just what we're going to do. So it's that same thing.
That was super dope. What you did, you had a growth mindset to meet your clients' needs, even though it wasn't what you were trained or what you wanted to create. And that's releasing control. It's putting the ego to the side. Because if we're very, very, very laser focused, then you're going to be like, no, that's actually called blah, blah, blah. And guess what? You probably won't have that client for long.
Exactly. Exactly.
Good stuff.
I'm loving this. I have a few more questions, but before I do, just wanted to see if y'all have any questions you wanted to throw to each other, throw into the space, anything y'all wanted to ask. Otherwise, I got some more, but just wanted to give the opportunity if you did.
I'm good. I'm loving the flow.
It's flowing really nicely.
Well, I appreciate that. So I'm curious, out of, it's been a interesting year, interesting life, interesting universe. Trying to think if there's any more interestings I can add. What are some of the biggest ahas that you have had in your journey as an entrepreneur in this last year in life? Just curious about the ahas that you've kind of earned and gained over these past years or year or life.
For me, it would be we have to trust ourselves sooner, because I was telling you guys in the pregame that I just put in my notice at my 9 to 5. And so next week is my last day. And I've been struggling with, thank you. I've been struggling with this decision, being decisive, fear. What if the clients stop coming? What if people don't want coaching anymore? What if I can't get this job back? And I contemplated for 9 months, almost a year. And I should have did it a long time ago, because at the end of the day, I could always get a job. But I can't always tap into this current synergy that's flowing around that where I'm able to make an impact so effortlessly. And sometimes you can miss the opportunity if you let fear get in the way. So I would say I've learned to no matter of the circumstance, because most people just COVID, they'd be like, oh, heck no, I'm not leaving this job. Like with COVID, who knows if I can get it again? Well, guess what? Who knows if you're going to have to hire a team because you have an overflow of the need of what you're providing. We don't know, but when you trust yourself, I think that things will organically flow for you. So in short, practice what I preach, because I teach my clients this, but I wasn't practicing what I preached, and I finally did it.
I love that. Again, back to my old hair roots. I would constantly tell clients what product to use to get the look that they wanted, and then go home and not do it myself and wonder why my hair didn't look the way that I wanted it to. And then I'd be like, maybe I should do what I tell my clients to do. It's just one of those things sometimes as teachers we don't do. But for me, the last, I've been on a learning journey for a couple of years. Like I mentioned, my back surgery. So I've been on this journey about a year before everyone else was. I was kind of house ridden a little bit. I was already kind of captive. So I've had a slightly longer journey than some others in this. And my big aha moment is the fact that, just again, back to that networking, and not in the idea of like paying for network opportunities, but genuinely connecting with people. I did an Instagram post yesterday, just being a little more honest about how the last few weeks my energy's been low. And I said, my energy's been low. I haven't been feeling 100%. This is what I did, and this is what I'm going to do instead. And I'm ready to like take the next couple of weeks, and just run with it. And a girl that I had recently talked to, hadn't recently talked to, we hadn't talked in months, randomly only met once through Instagram, messaged me this beautiful heartfelt message and said, I know that we're not like best friends or anything, but I feel a connection to you and I'm here for you. Such another like nail in the like, yes, we need to just say, this is social. Social media can be social. These can be real people that we're talking to in our hearts, like in our minds. This isn't just an opportunity to sell someone something. This is a human. And that human who likes me, who understands me, who gets me, who wants to be my friend, she's going to be not only the person that rallies behind me on my low days, but might be the next connection to something that I didn't realize was out there. So Tom, I mean, you and I met this way. We randomly met because we were both in the same program. And I heard his podcast interview that he was on. And so I was like, hey, what's up? You're Tom. Next thing you know, we're like friends and we work together sometimes. So not letting go of those real relationships that you do meet in this industry, not letting yourself think that this is just a computer and it's just fake. These are real humans behind these screens. And if we were out in the world, and people used to ask me like about social media, because I am also a social media expert. I just don't do that as much anymore. They would say, I don't get why my Instagram's not growing. And I said, treat it like a cocktail party. If you were actually in a real world where everyone was at this party who wanted to meet someone like you would walk in and say, I've arrived, and you would talk to each person. So why aren't you doing that? It's not just a screen, it's real people. And sure, you're going to find the scammers. You're going to find the annoying fake people. You're going to find the bots. You're going to find all that. But wouldn't it be worth talking and deleting like 50 of those, 100 of those, if you found 2 or 3 super connected people that you are going to have as your like business buddy for life? I mean, how often do we actually find a connection with someone for life? And I have found people from the beginning of my journey, we still check in. How is your business? How can I support you? So I think that's my biggest aha, is being the person I was in real life behind the chair in person with my clients, the same when I show up on a screen with others.
That's dope.
Yes. What about it resonated with you, LaShana?
Man, oh my God. Basically it goes down to mindset. If you reframe your mindset to look at it a different way, you'll soar in your superpowers. But when it's a fixed mindset, oh my God, social media, I only got 500 followers. Nobody's liking my post. I just spent an hour on this post and hired a freaking videographer and a photographer, and nobody freaking liked it. And then your whole week, your whole month is screwed up. When really relax, enjoy the moment, and things will organically come. It's good nobody liked it. Evidently, they didn't resonate. You're waiting for someone who's resonating, someone who actually sees you and understands you. If they don't, then let's look in the mirror. Am I doing too much? Am I too animated? Am I just acting like I'm on a freaking commercial when really I need to just relax, have a cocktail, and talk to the person and not at the person?
LaShana, is that really a cocktail or is that water?
Oh, I wish it was. It's just water right now.
We're all wondering. We're like, I like it. Okay.
I leaned forward to see it was in your cup. I was like, what's in there?
Later.
This is I was reflecting on what would be my aha right now. And I'm curious about y'all's thoughts on this one too. So one of my, I don't know if I'd call it ahas. It's more almost like I knew it, but in a disappointed way. So I'm going to tell you what. So this time last year, my anger or frustration with the podcast course coaching industry is it's very much a like boys club, mostly like white guys featuring other white guys in their podcasts and on their stages. And then you saw last year at this time, right now we're recording this, it's the middle of June, this almost what felt like a very performative, like, no, we do care. Like we care about Black people. We care about diversity and inclusion. Like, look, here's this one person. See, they're my friend. And it's like, okay, well, let's see how this actually changes. And it's like 1 year later, all these podcasts and coaches are like the big names are still only doing promotions with other white guys, are still only doing promotions with other white women, helping white women. And it just feels like this, I fucking knew it. You know what I mean? That's kind of like been this frustration. I'm curious y'all's thoughts on just kind of where we're at in the entrepreneurial podcast community 1 year later right now.
That is such a deep question. I do refrain from getting too political, even though I have my own, thoughts and feelings. I grew up in LA. I've been friends all my life with everybody. And I'm not just saying that to be, cool. Like I really have. I never thought about color. And so when issues come up around that, it hurts me. Like it hurts me so much for all of my friends. And I don't know what to do. I felt paralyzed last year. I felt paralyzed because if I say something, am I just looking like I'm saying something? If I don't say something, do I look like I don't care? I felt really stuck in that. So I just kind of kept doing what I was doing. My friends are of all different ages, backgrounds, colors. They live in different countries. I'm just not going to stop doing what I'm doing because the world is getting woke suddenly or whatever's happening. Meantime, we're watching devastating things happening on the news. And I was trying to be careful not to get too caught up in the anger of it because that could change me as a person and how I believe and how I think. And I didn't want that to change it in a negative way. I really feel like I work on high values. But in the podcast world, in the networking world, in the promoting each other world, I do see that there are some that have made a big deal, but I don't understand where people are coming from. I'm still confused, Tom. I'm going to be fully honest with you about it. I helped a woman. She happens to be white. She's one of my clients, and she's in upstate New York, and she put together this great summit. And there are quite a few different women on the summit. It's a woman-only summit. They are different colors, different backgrounds, different places they lived around the world. But people don't also realize that I'm brown. I have ethnic. I'm Latina, but I have blonde hair and I don't talk about it. It's not my focus of my marketing. It doesn't matter to me who I am, from that aspect when it comes to business. So maybe that's a mistake. I don't know, but that's just how I feel. So I think I come off to people as, well, she's just white, which is whatever. But a woman actually saw our ads, wrote into us and said, how dare you have a pot of women for summit that is all white driven. There's no women of color. And I thought, well, that was noble of her to want to speak up, right? So we wanted to look at that data and say, why did she feel this way? So we looked at the pictures we had put, we looked at the words we had used. And I didn't want to have to count how many people were had different colors. I didn't want to have to do that, but we sat down and we said, okay, percentage wise, we probably could have represented more. But then honestly, was that us trying to fill a spot just to fill a spot when naturally the people she met a lot of them were actually already in her network and she just had worked with them before. So she trusted them to be on the pod, on the summit pod. So it's really difficult for me, Tom, to still navigate through this. And I have taken inclusion courses. I was working with a very high-end coach, and she's a multi-million-dollar coach on her copywriting. She brought in an inclusion specialist and had a diversity training for us for 6 weeks from a very talented woman. And I learned a lot, but I still left feeling, what do I do? But, your question was, what do I see out there in the world? I actually do see people trying. I don't know their intentions. I don't know if it's going to change the world in general. I just know where I stand, and I just try to do my best and try to just look at the best in people for now. I mean, that's all I can do.
I'm aware of politics. It didn't start on podcasts. It didn't start entrepreneurship. Politics are everywhere, corporate America, right? So I've always held the stance of pull my weight and make my own table. I am connected with several African-American males who are number one in the podcast industry. I'm not going to call out any names, but one thing that I've done, I create a space and a table for those who don't have a voice, no matter what your color is. Just so happen I resonate with most people of color, but if a Caucasian, whatever person came and they want to join, let's go. Because I want to create a table where you can present your own platform and have confidence. So at the end of the day, yeah, there was a spike when the whole thing came. It kind of declined, but I'm not really focused on that because literally I have confidence in my skill set and I'm making sure to make a table so we don't have to focus on it, right? Great question. But at the end of the day, I feel like if we focus on that, then that takes us away from getting to the ultimate goal, which is making an impact for everybody.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you both, sharing your thoughts. I appreciate that we're having the conversation. And so I appreciate the insights that y'all both provided. One thing that we've brought up is the ability to pivot and to face obstacles. whatever they might be. For you all, when it goes into reinventing, when it goes through getting there through a pivot, what does that look like for you all? How do you find the mindset? How do you find the resource? What goes into it for you all doing your pivots, or if there's any specific pivots in your life that you want to talk about?
For me, I had the big pivot that I mentioned. The big pivot that, my whole life completely changed with the emergency surgery. So I went through everything, and emotionally, therapy wise, I had therapy. What I will say that helps me to keep going is recognizing that as strong as I am, and I'm a very strong person, I still need help when I need help. And whether that means talking to professionals about it, whether that means at one point medication to get through certain things, whether that means just having my friends rally around me and telling them what I need, saying, you know what, friends, I'm down and I need your support. For me, admitting that you need the help and then acting on it, even and not being hard on yourself. Change and pivot is hard. And so it's really cool to say like, oh, I just pivoted, but it didn't usually for most of us happen. Like I pivoted on a dime. Most of us pivot and it takes a little time and you try, it's almost like putting a toe in the water. It's cold. We have to pull back a little and we keep going until now it's a very comfortable and refreshing jump out, in the water, in the pool we're in, and we're swimming around and now it's fun. We're going to play volleyball with our friends in this water and we're having a great time. So that's how, for me, I had to view it, and not as shameful, not as a mistake. I still don't think that a lot of the things that happen are 100% our fault. I think that there's so many factors. So removing that shame will remove a large part of that embarrassment to speak out and ask for help, embarrassment to show the world that there's a change coming. Because, I grew up in the hair industry when I first started. You didn't show your cards. You didn't tell people you weren't booked that day. You lied and said you only had one opening. You didn't do that because it was unprofessional. So breaking that and saying, hey, this is who I am. This is where I am. I need 2 clients to survive. Is anybody looking for work? Because I'm awesome at what I do. Who knows somebody who needs my work? And you'll find out that saying that, people go, oh, I didn't know you were taking new clients. I have someone for you. And so breaking out of that, not looking like like you had to pivot, not looking like something happened to you. That's the biggest mistake. Being honest about what's going on and where you need support can be the best thing. The other mindset I found, I had little Post-it notes everywhere. I wouldn't call them mantras, but just reminders, because when you're, for me, in a negative mindset or scary, I want to say I was in a scary mindset, scared. I'd never had something like this happen before, because I actually sold my house, moved in with my parents. My whole life had to start from scratch. And I was going through divorce at the time. My dog of 14 years passed away that year. I mean, I went through all the things that were bad for me all at once. And so it was like, kept getting knocked down. And the way I kept standing up and being stronger was, you need reminders, because every time you're knocked down, you go back into that rut, that mindset, that thought of like, oh, I suck. I'm not good enough. And then you look up and you go, wait, no, look how far I've come. Look at what I've done. Staying on that rung of like that ladder that you're climbing, you're in a hole and someone put the ladder in and you asked for that ladder and they're all standing at the top cheering you on, saying, you can climb out of this hole. We're up here when you're ready. Don't go up three rungs on that ladder and then sit down on the ground and say, I knew it. I knew I couldn't get up 10 more. Yes, you can, but maybe sit for a minute on that one rung, take your breath, and then keep going. And so that's how that pivot worked for me. It took a while, but when I look back, it's almost like now it's this little hole. I traveled so far from that. The hole has now been covered up. I look back and I'm like, wow, now there's like a tree growing where that was. And I filled in the dirt. I put a tree, the ladder's out. I'm like doing great now. Your perspective can completely change after some kind of pivot like that. So just go through the journey is what I tell people. Don't skip the steps. Just keep climbing each step of that ladder and take a break when you need.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Charlese. Appreciate you. And what about for you, LaShana?
I love that. So honestly, I think a pivot is healthy. It's funny because I do one-on-one coaching and I've worked with a couple of clients on our 8-week intensive. We're building out this core offer. And then after a couple months, they come to me because I have a group coaching program too. And they kind of go down to that level and they're like scared to tell me that they want to pivot. And when they say it, I say, Congratulations. Like that means things are clicking, things are working. You're actually going through the journey. If you create this offer and you do that for the rest of your life, that's a problem. You should be pivoting. You should be evolving. You should be growing. And I think people are scared to say it, especially with someone who helped them build it. They feel like they wasted your time. No. First of all, you're investing in me to help you gain clarity and create an offer that you like. And if you want to change your mind and make it evolve, that is a good thing. So when I think of the word pivot, I think that means you're growing and you're learning and you're getting more mature and you're getting braver so you can do something bigger to make a bigger impact. So that's how I kind of shift my mindset around that.
Speaking of getting bigger, doing big things, what are some of the projects that y'all are working on that got you really excited?
So for me, I kind of alluded to it a little bit. I have a 90-day core accelerator to building your core offer from the inside out. And really, we're focusing on mindset. I really think that unresolved trauma and imposter syndrome is the reason why most of us can't really push through in entrepreneurship. Whether it's lack of confidence, whether you've been bullied in the past, whether you grew up in a chaotic household and you didn't really have a voice, that has a lot to do with why you can't show up online, why you can't ask for the sale, why you have all these decisions and you can't choose one because you're scared about what may happen. So we focus on that from the core inside, and then we build your core offer from the outside. I'm super excited about that. That's what I have brewing. And then also I have a group coaching program where it's for accountability, community, and learning as you go. So with those two things, I'm not pivoting for a while, but I know that there will be other things coming up, but that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now.
Love it.
I love it.
That's
so exciting. Yeah, and she went all in. She went all in because she's let go of her job too, her 9 to 5. So
it's going down. I'm about to be knocking on doors. Hey, you want to join my offer?
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that gives me a little fire because I've been working my entire career I've always wanted to do, once I pivoted to, helping people with their launches, which, has been a couple of years now. I've just kept thinking, I want to sell a course. I'm great at teaching. I want to sell a course. And I've had all these mindset reasons as why I have it. And I'm in a high level mastermind, and she's like, just effing do it. And I'm like, okay. So I'm proud to say that we're filming the final videos. The edits are going to go out. This course is finally going to be what I wanted it to be. And so by the end of July, it'll be officially launched. And what it is, it's called Your Best Launch Ever. And it's about how you launch, because I can be hired as your launch specialist. And that's great. And I love to do that. But a lot of people have a team in place and they just want to know what to do to get the team to do the thing. They don't necessarily want to hire a new person in to do all the things when they've already got their flow. They just need to know how to launch better. So it's about people who usually have already launched once. They want to take that data and relaunch in a better way each time, whether it's a new product or most often it's that same course. That they just want to get more revenue. They want to up level it. They want to know how to get more visibility around that one launch. So my own course is coming out in July and I'm so excited.
Congratulations.
Yes. And so for folks who are listening saying, I want to take your how to launch, I want to take that 90-day program, I want to just spend all the monies on y'all and just be in your programs. Let's start with you, LaShana. How can folks get at you, learn about all of the goodies?
Sure. So you can go to my website, Ms.West.creativecoach.com, or you can text the word mindset to 678-336-7756, and you'll be able to get a complimentary clarity call with me to see which part of my service potentially is a good fit. Because I think that it's two parts, right? We need to do our due diligence to make sure that we want to opt into a specific service, but the person on the other end needs to do due diligence to make sure it's a good fit. And when those two are able to marry one another, that's when we can start popping bottles.
Let's run that back again, though, a little more slowly. What's the phone number?
Sure. So you're going to text mindset to 678-336-7756, and you can book a complimentary clarity call with me with doing that.
Okay. Why don't we run that back one more time? What did you say that the number was?
Okay. It's 678-336-7756.
I love that. And just want to say, just so we can just pull out this awesome gift you just gave us. I have been absolutely finding in all of our clients, text is the converter. So I love how you're getting people to text you, because I've just found, boom, that's the way to do it. So I'm co-signing that for sure. Awesome. Okay, cool. And Charlese, what about you?
Okay, so like I said, I love to hang out with people on social media. So just head over to my Instagram. Girl at the Yellow Desk is my handle. And DM me. Go to my link. You get a free, some free options to choose from. I have actually the coolest one is email templates for your nurture sequence. So once you get people in, people go nuts for those. You just personalize them, throw them into your sequence. No excuses to why you don't have your clients being nurtured and being brought in. And it's one of my favorite things. So that's my gift to you if you come on over to my Instagram. But seriously, just come be my friend. That's all I want.
I love it. I love it. Y'all, we will have all of this in the show notes so that if you're on the go, you're like, what? Oh, my phone's in my backpack. Don't worry. We got you. We're going to have all that in the show notes. LaShana, Charlese, y'all took the leap of faith. You know me, Charlese, but LaShana, you don't know me at all. You're like, fine, let me give this a shot. Let me roll the dice. And so just first of all, I want to say thank you for sharing your time, your energy, your gifts. But even more than that, y'all were totally present. You shared so deeply with us. You not only shared with us mindset stuff, actual actionable things we can put into place. You were present. You humored me and all my strange questions. So just want to thank y'all so much for being here with us today. So thank you.
No problem.
My pleasure.
Our closing ritual is for you to share an invitation with those who are listening. What would you like to invite people to do, to think about, to consider, to become, to evolve into, to reflect upon? What is your invitation?
So my invitation is to make sure that we're not being information hoarders and we actually do something with what we learn, no matter how big or how small. If there was one thing that you were like, oh, I need to write that down, or oh, I need to do that, then let's do that. Because once you make that actionable step, that's when you can start making movement. But as long as it stays in here, that increases us to be more confused and not make production.
I love that. Thank you so much. Charlese, what about you?
It's along the same lines. I think we ended up hitting the same tone here, but that launch that I'm doing of my course is waited too long to come out into the world. So I invite you to also, act now, do what you came to do. And if you need support, reach out. You have mindset support with LaShana and with me. I can help you get your launch done. Let's do it. Let's get things done. So stop waiting, make the pivot, make the step, and go.
Boom. Charlese, LaShana, once again, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Y'all, if you're listening, get at both of them and share with them your gratitude, share with them what stuck out to them. And if you're ready to take your business, your mindset, your life to the next level, go ahead and work with both of them. And to all of those who are listening, we want to thank you. And as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you. One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.